Have you ever been intrigued by the house of Thameen London? Well, so was I. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances, and this is fragrance speed dating with Thameen London. In this series, I try to plow through my mountain of samples and discovery sets. I want to present you with the most fragrances possible. In this format, my interactions with the fragrances is definitely the least in-depth. For more in-depth information, we have my full reviews and first impression comparisons where I actually give the fragrances a full wear. In this format here, as I said, I really want to keep it quick and dirty, very much speed dating style. I'll be spraying fragrances on strip, which is a stark difference from my usual doing. I usually spray fragrances on skin just because I like the way the skin makes the fragrance more unique. But I don't really have time to spray fragrances on skin, and mainly I don't have space to spray fragrances on skin. Everything would become very confusing and mixed together. In this episode, I'm going to be finally tackling a discovery set that I've been sitting on for way too long. I got this Thameen discovery set, which is the official one, I think in September of 2024. I got it at the airport at a duty free. And apart from going into the set and smelling just one fragrance, not wearing it on skin or anything, just smelling it off the strip because it was the most interesting to me, I have zero experience with the House of Thameen, zero experience with the fragrances in this set. The House of Thameen was always on my radar. I mean, I knew it existed, but I never really was into purchasing a fragrance or even diving in deeper. And for mainly two reasons. One being the lack of availability in my area. They're impossible to find at discounters, and they're actually quite expensive. I think that they run about 200 bucks or more new. So yeah, steep for something that's completely unknown. And second of all, because a lot of the fragrances were named in a not inspiring way, I would say. I don't know, maybe the packaging, maybe the overall vibe of the house was never really to my inspiration, I guess. But that sort of lackluster interest toward Thameen suddenly changed when I discovered that the former director of Amouage, Christopher Chong, had joined the Thameen family and became the creative director for the brand. Now, I'm completely aware that none of the fragrances in this set have been overseen or designed by Christopher Chong. That's fine, but I just found it a really interesting opportunity to recoup the lost ground and to just finally dive my nose into Thameen as a house, to just get a general overview of what's it about and their vibe. I'm really curious to see if they have a vibe, if they have an identity, and what their identity is. Because as much as I did not like a house like Mind Games, I did find some sort of a connection between the fragrances, and I do value that a lot. I value execution, intent, and artistry and design. I'm not expecting to be blown away by any of these, to be completely honest, but I just want to see if there's something in there that kind of sparks my interest and that sparks my will to go and dive a little bit deeper. Before we start, let me just remind you how all this works. As I said, I'll be spraying these on strip just because of the logistics of the thing. In this case, today we're going to be sampling all 12 of the fragrances in here. That's a lot of fragrances to be smelled in one video. It's going to be a pretty long video. After each fragrance, which I'm going to be dedicating not too much time to because otherwise we're going to be sitting here forever, I'm going to be assigning a score to the opening of the fragrance, and I'm going to be expressly talking about the opening only. Again, this is speed dating. You can't really go in depth with the fragrance, and some fragrances might have a really awesome dry down, but I can't evaluate that, not on 12 fragrances. Sometimes, if a fragrance really interests me, I will graduate the fragrance to another format, maybe a first impression comparison, or even a full review if I eventually even buy a bottle, who knows. Once I've scored all of the fragrances 1 to 10, I'll be selecting the one I like most and spraying that on skin to see if it develops differently, to see if it smells differently on skin. Some fragrances change radically. I don't know Thameen as a house, I don't know their vibe, but yeah, I guess we're gonna find out. As mentioned, today we're gonna go through the whole set of Thameen. I do not want to divide this in two parts because it took me long enough to pick up this set and do this video, and I don't really have the energy to go back at it. I have a ton of discovery sets lying around, and I want to prioritize other brands. And today we're gonna be sampling Amber Room, Cullinan Diamond, Peacock Throne, Royal Sapphire, Blue Heart, Insignia, Peregrina, The Cora, Carved Oud, Patiala, Rivière, and the hope. I don't know these scents. Are they the best of the house? I'm not really sure, but nonetheless, this is an official discovery set, so they must be a reference for the house. I guess we're gonna find out. If you have any experience with these scents or any other from the house that you really like, please leave a comment down below. I'll try to explore anything that is missing if Thameen as a house really strikes a chord with me. Okay, my intro was long enough. Let's get sniffing. There's a ton of stuff to get through. I think I'm gonna tackle these left to right, top to bottom, as presented in the box. They do not follow the order on which I read them on the back, but hey, that's life, I guess. First one is Amber Room. In here, by the way, we have a little booklet that I'm not gonna bother reading. These samples look like the standard samples used by many luxury houses. They're pretty terrible. They spray badly. I'm hoping that these work because I've been sitting on this for such a long time. So fingers crossed. Okay, Amber Room here. Let's give it 2 sprays on the strip. Very potent, wow. Not subtle at all. This reminds me of the intro of something like a Zerja fragrance. It's very, very punchy, very potent. It reminds me of, again, for some reason I'm still picturing Zerjov, but specifically it reminds me of Zerjov 40 Knots. I'm not really sure if it's an inspiration, a clone, or if it's an inspiration to Christian Dior's Ambre Nuit, but it smells remarkably similar. Again, in my memory, it might be a little less powdery, a little less fresh, but it has the same sort of a very mass appealing, very punchy type of amber. This does not smell like Grand Soir. It does not smell like that to me. It smells more designery in a way. It's very good. I like it a lot. It has a nice, very fun type of punch. Again, very Zerjov in style. There's almost like a honey or tobacco note in here. Maybe something like the dry down of Naxos. Again, I don't know why I can't shake the idea of Zerjov. It's surprisingly nuanced, and despite the ambery punchiness being incredibly apparent, it still retains a little bit of a freshness. Not freshness per se, but like wearability. It's not one of those ambers that you smell and you're like, oh God, another one of those ambers that is like super deep and dense. This does not feel like a wintry type of scent. It doesn't feel like an autumn scent. It doesn't smell gourmand whatsoever. It smells very well put together. It smells likable. Yes, it has that sweet ambery touch, which is not too original, too unique, but it's a nice scent. I like it a lot. The honey note in here is actually quite dominant. It's not as forward as in something like B, or not nearly as realistic, but it's very, very apparent. It's has this type of fermented aspect to it that gives this scent, this ambery accord, a little bit of an edge. Again, it's super clean, it's super mass appealing. There's nothing offensive about this. Super punchy. I like this a lot. I would say first impressions, putting myself in third person mode, walking into a store, sampling these Thameen fragrances, I would give this probably a good 7.5. This is a good fragrance. And I forgot to mention in the beginning that with this series, I really want to replicate the feeling of going into a shop and smelling a lot of fragrances. In a shop, you really don't have time to go into the deep dry down unless they're extremely patient or not busy. And you only get to sample the opening and a very first impression. So yeah, my score is heavily based on that, putting myself in that mentality. So again, Amber Room, pretty good, 7.5, solid. I like it. All right, second fragrance from the box is Blue Heart. Let's give it a couple sprays. Yeah, atomizer is not too great on this. I give it 3. I'm not really sure what I'm getting here. It's still mass appealing, very, very likable, very sweet. Again, it has this Zerjov presence, very punchy. These fragrances are way punchier than I was expecting them to be. It kind of reminds me of something like Zerjov Accento. I'm not really sure if there's fruits or florals, but it's a very beautiful, well-blended concoction of fruit and florals. It has a slight citrusy zing to it. I'm not really sure what it is, because I'm not really smelling citruses per se. Maybe there's a little bit of a orange or orange blossom. There's something that reminds me of that smell. It smells clean. This smells a lot cleaner than the other one. It It has this sort of powdery feeling. This one here definitely reminds me a lot more of the vibes that I'm getting from the Zerjoff V-line. So again, accento is what comes to mind. I'm not really good at deciphering notes or picking up notes, so I'm not going to go into that detail because I'm just going to make a fool of myself and just invent stuff. But overall, I do get that sort of similarity to something like accento. It has it has this really clean, fruity feeling. It might even be something like a pineapple or even like a really crunchy green apple. It's really nice. It smells a little bit like shampoo, but not in a demeaning way, not to a bad degree. It has this really nice, comforting, very simple type of cleanliness. It smells high quality though. It smells well put together. Again, it has this very strong punch. This on skin will probably be very, very strong. So, not my style. It's not as impressive as the other one, but it's still good. It's still a really interesting fragrance, and especially again, putting myself in third person again, maybe a little bit more as a novice, because these two scents that I smell do not smell complicated or inaccessible. Smelling this, especially coming from the designer realm, will definitely have you impressed. I like it. I like it a lot. I would say strong 7 out of 10. Okay, third fragrance is, what is this thing? Carved Oud. Oh, okay, Carved Oud. So as I said, this one here is the only one that I smelled a while back. That was in September when I got the Discovery set. I was interested in this because it's often compared to the likes of Tom Ford's Oud Wood, which is a fragrance that I liked a lot. I never was completely blown away. I never was mesmerized by that scent. It always came across as a very nice, clean, woody scent. I was maybe a little bit underwhelmed by the complexity or the challengingness of the scent. A lot of people say that there's oud in there. Absolutely not. It's super easy to wear, very, very clean. And when smelling this, I was interested to see if this would bring the concept of oud wood maybe to a little bit more of an edgy, complicated level. And my reactions at the time off strip were pretty good. I was like, yeah, this smells pretty good, but still it didn't blow me away. And yeah, we'll give it a try and see what I think today. Yeah, these atomizers are pretty bad. Typical. And by the way, I realized that I always rant about these bad atomizers on samples, especially for more luxurious brands. But I do think that they're basically your business card. They're part of your presentation, and having such a bad presentation is awful. And brands that actually care about their products and their marketing, such as Les Indemodables, which I got a sample set of recently, which I'll be smelling on camera, by the way, those samples are absolutely amazing. So there is no justification for this crap. But anyway, back to Carved Oud here. Yeah, I like this thing a lot. I really like this. It has a nice edginess to it. It has a very nice balsamic type of oudiness. Now that I smelled a lot more things, this kind of reminds me of Oud for Greatness, or rather, the thing that I liked about Oud for Greatness, that very resinous, balsamic, very tree-like type of smell. This definitely has that. It's still very clean, very likable. It has this really dynamic punchiness that even the previous two fragrances gave me. I really like this about this house. It's nice. It's exciting to smell. I really like it. Yeah, this is definitely my favorite, but again, I might be a little bit biased. I really like these resinous notes. I really like woody smells, and this one here hammers it home. It has a little bit of powderiness, a little bit of cleanliness up top. This is probably one of the best first impressions for a clean wood fragrance that I've had recently. This is remarkably better than something like Oud for Greatness that had a lot of that ambroxany thing that I can't smell. It's even better than Altan by Perfumes de Marly. This one here is really good. Super punchy. I like this a lot. It's right up my alley. And by the way, off strip at least, they all come across as very much signature scent worthy. They're all multi-seasonal scents. They have depth and punch, but also cleanliness and lift. I really like these. This is a solid 7.5, 8 out of 10. Fourth fragrance here is Cullinan Diamond. I have no idea what this means. These names, again, are not super inspiring to me. They're not really artistic. They don't really entice me to go smell the fragrance because they don't really give away much of the fragrance within the name. I'm opening a little bit of a parenthesis here because I find this topic really interesting. I am into communication after all. I do think that the best fragrance names are the ones that kind of hint at what the fragrance is like without giving it away too much. It's like the perfect riddle. You want to be enticed to kind of like think about it and take a guess, but you also do not want it to be too simple and too straightforward. A boring fragrance name is almost a sin to me. You're basically losing an opportunity to really gather the attention of who is smelling and to actually tell them a little bit about the story you're trying to tell. Closing that parenthesis off, let's get to spraying here. Yeah, these samples are crap. So much for spraying just 2 sprays. I'm just finding myself eyeballing it based on what comes out of the nozzle. Super punchy, once again. I like this aspect. I like how defined, I like how potent they come across. Same sort of vibe as the other one, very punchy, but very clean, very mass appealing, very likable and wearable. They all have this general lift to them, which probably makes them very good signature scents or year-round wears. I'm getting Zerjoff V-line vibes again. This one smells definitely more floral, less fruity than the other one. This one here smells kind of like maybe rose or some other dewy, very delicate type of flower. This is not a punchy flower. It's not a punchy floral. This is a punchy scent, as I said, but the punchiness comes from the base notes here, which are probably vanillas, the muskiness, those ambers, kind of like, again, Zerjoff style base notes. The florals in here are actually quite delicate. Now I'm definitely picking up on rose. It's a very clean, powdery rose, very delicate smelling. It's very, I would say, feminine in a way. This is not a feminine scent per se, but the rose itself comes across as a little bit feminine, comes across as delicate, comes across as timid in a way. Nice character. I like this a lot. I would definitely say that this is the least impressive to me because although punchy, it doesn't really strike my interest too much. I would not necessarily wear this. It's beautiful. It kind of reminds me of actually Fragrance du Bois Siberian Rose. It has that very mellow, very velvety type of feeling to it with a lot of power, a lot of presence, but still very wearable, very delicate. I would say that this is a 6.5, 7 out of 10. Fifth fragrance is Insignia. And again, these names are a little bit forgettable. They don't really entice me or anything like that. I can't even remember the second name of the fragrance. What was that? Blue Heart or something like that? But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would have to read the brief to connect a little bit more with the fragrance. And the truth be told, I really haven't looked into these fragrances singularly. I really haven't looked into Thameen as a house singularly because it hasn't really intrigued me to the point of looking into it. I actually looked only into the newer creations, the ones that are probably under Christopher Chong, and these are not those. Okay, again, let's see what this atomizer is. All right, 2.5 sprays. Wow, okay, this is, again, super punchy. Very, very citrusy. I wasn't expecting this at all. Whew, this is potent stuff, wow. It's citrusy, it's sharp, it's astringent, very, very beautifully energetic, punchy, again, punchy scents. These are nice scents, they're fun to sample. But they're also quite sweet. Again, they have this mass appealingness that really reminds me of Zerjoff. It has the same sort of style, which really leverages this presence, this sweetness, and overall this massive body of the scent, almost as a special effect to really entice the customer. And let me tell you, it works well. I can totally see people just buying fragrances in a shop when smelling them because this is fun stuff to smell. It's really, really potent. I don't know how much depth these have or how much of a long-lasting impression these give, but overall, first impression is really good. Yeah, moving those citruses out of the way from the front because they're very, very bold. You immediately recognize the same sort of a base, the ambery vanilla, very sweet, very enveloping base. And now I understand why Zerjoff uses it so much because it's a very good first impression. Yeah, this is really nice, and despite it being very, very citrusy, again, very bright, very zingy, extremely so, this is not super fresh or summery. They all lie mostly in the mid-tone of the wearability. They're all very much year-round scents. I can totally see myself wearing this in the winter just to have that extra sparkle, but in the summer, this might actually be a little bit heavy due to the ambery base in the bottom. Overall, super fun. I actually like this a lot. This is a strong 7.5 out of 10. Set to number 6. What is this here? Patiala. Did I even read this on the back of the box? I can't even remember. Anyway, Patiala, another light scent. Let's see what this is all about. Oh, this atomizer is really good. Same sort of thing. Super, super punchy. Really, really in your face with this incredibly bold sweetness. My God. Oh my God, yeah. I'm gonna be incredibly fatigued after 12 of these. These are intense animals here. Wow, yeah, sweetness overload on this. It has something on the top. Yeah, I don't know what this is because those base notes are completely overpowering any sort of top zinginess that this thing has. Really, really difficult to ignore. This is another one that smells remarkably similar to some sort of a shampoo. Very pleasant, very nice. This is the kind of smell that when you open a shampoo bottle at the supermarket, it will sell you on that shampoo. It smells very fruity, very fresh. Has a little bit more of a mintiness to it compared to the other ones. It's again, it smells super clean, remarkably clean. There's also that muskiness, which is, again, I hate to repeat myself, but very, very Xerjoff-like, that gives it this lift and freshness and cleanliness. I think that the muskiness in here and in the other scents is the ingredient or compound that is responsible for this like very clean, very shampoo type of feeling. Overall, exceedingly sweet, exceedingly punchy and potent. Great stuff. Fun. Fun, but the novelty is kind of wearing off. If they all smell like this, I'm gonna be less and less impressed as we go on. This is it's probably the most nondescript, a little bit generic of the bunch. I would have to say that this is a 6.5 out of 10. It's like the more masculine version of what was that? The one with the rose, with the delicate rose. It takes that sort of idea and just adds a little bit of woodiness or edginess in the greenery department. I don't know, maybe I'm imagining stuff. This is remarkably generic. Again, it smells super good. I actually really like this. I could probably wear this no problem, but I would never own a bottle of this myself. Unless it develops drastically on the skin, this would probably be quite boring to me. I don't know. Yeah, 6.5, 7 out of 10. All right, now we have two which are a little bit darker. This one here is Peacock Throne. Interesting name. This one is actually quite captivating. So let's give it the good old 2 sprays here. Yeah, bad atomizer. All right, this one immediately smells different, I can tell you that. Still super punchy, but in a less obvious way. It's way less sweet. I really like this a lot more. Okay, so this one here goes a lot more in the carved oud direction. It goes woody again. I'm not really sure what's in here, but it's definitely more resinous. It's definitely more dry. There might be some sort of like an incense in here that is giving this a little bit of a very slight smoky type of flavor. This is kind of reminding me of a more mass appealing version of Profumum Roma Arzo. It has a very nice woodiness in here, really nice. I like it a lot. It has a punch, but it's way less intense than Carved Oud actually. This is the least intense of the fragrances that I smelled. Maybe because it's lacking that vanilla ambre kick that's in the base. I think that this is the one I like the most for now. And it's the most interesting for sure. It's the one that speaks to me a little bit more. It's the one that is not overpowered by the sweetness and that might actually have a lot more development on skin. Again, super clean, super mass appealing, very, very wearable, still light enough to be probably worn year round, still very powerful, except not as sweet. A little bit more maybe masculine leaning. Again, we're talking modern masculinity here, so not those 80s, very hair in your chest type of fragrances. This is a little bit more clean, fresh. It's nice, I like it a lot. I'm not sure what I'm smelling. I can't really pick out any notes except for what I mentioned. A little bit of a resinous, balsamic note, a little bit of a slight woodiness, and maybe some incense. I like this. I think that this is a 7.5, 8 out of 10, on par with Carved Oud. I know it sounds really dumb, but when a fragrance color is a little bit darker, I already have high hopes. This one here is Peregrina, all right. I think I've heard someone talking about this. I can't remember what they were talking about or how they referred to this, but this might be one of the more popular OGs from the brand. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. Better than expected. This is also different from the other ones. It's still punchy, still very in your face, but it doesn't have that clean shampoo feeling at all. And also the other one that I smelled, which was, again, what's the name of that? Oh, Peacock Throne. That one also lacked the shampoo feeling, which is good in my opinion, adds variety. This one here definitely goes more gourmand. I think that this is the most gourmand from the bunch, despite not really having that vanilla ambery base. I mean, vanilla actually here is a lot more present. It's a lot more realistic. It's not that musky shampoo thing. Again, my note detecting capability is really bad, so I might be misleading everyone here, but that's what I'm getting. I'm getting very much a gourmand type of scent. It's not heavy, but it's definitely the most base heavy of the bunch. It's a little bit more drony than the rest of them. The other ones smell clean and wearable year round. This one here smells a lot more dense in a way. There's a distinct lack of top notes. There's nothing zingy or fresh about this. I don't know what's in the top of this fragrance. It might be, it's either some floral, some fresh floral, maybe again rose, or some sort of a very masked, very subdued citrus, like a bergamot, like a candied bergamot, or very, again, something very candied. It has a tiny bit of energy, but not enough to elevate this scent from its very basey type of quality. It's good. I like it. It's not for me. I do think that it's still different from the shampoo-y ones, so that's great. I think that this is a solid 7 out of 10. Okay, fragrance number 8, we have Rivière. This is the first name that actually inspires me towards some sort of imagery. I'm expecting something fresh, zingy, citrusy, maybe aquatic, maybe a little bit more mature and masculine. I'm not really sure. Let's see if my expectations are met. Ooh, this one sprayed right away. Nope. It ain't that. It ain't that at all. Super punchy again. I'm getting a lot of that musky shampoo type of smell. But let me give it a chance. That musky soapiness is definitely the strongest in this fragrance. It's incredibly vibrant. It's incredibly, I don't know, not energetic because there's no zing, there's no lightning bolt in here, but it has this very prominent top freshness. It's definitely coming from some sort of floral. It might be a mix of like lavender, or I say lavender because it's typical type of lavender freshness. It doesn't smell really well balanced. There might be some sort of a licorice thing in here, like an aniseed, but it doesn't come across as, again, refined or balanced. This is pretty much one direction. It's incredibly soapy, incredibly fresh, with this almost like mentholated aspect. Maybe lavender again, maybe aniseed. It has a very creamy type of background. It doesn't really come across as a fougere or like a barberry shop thing or like a shaving cream type of thing, but it has a really homogenized, creamy type of aspect to it. I'm not really sure what's in here. Very difficult to pick apart, this one. Everything is buried under this extreme soapiness. It's good, I like it. It's definitely a head turner. It's not as youthful as the other ones in the shampoo-y realm. There's no fruitiness in here. There's nothing that is pointing in that direction. What does this smell like? This kind of reminds me of something, but I can't pinpoint it. I don't know what this is. It smells like the dry down of a fougere. But it doesn't have that distinct lavender, that distinct citrusy opening. It's a very strange thing. Not my favorite, but really interesting and intriguing. I might be a little bit disappointed in the naming because I was expecting something completely different, but I really have to look at the notes for this. I'm really curious what this is all about. I would say 7 out of 10. Yeah, 7.2, something like that. Good, but not great. All right, I'm definitely getting a little bit fatigued here. Scent number 9 is Royal Sapphire. Are we expecting a blue scent? Are we expecting a marine scent? Who knows at this point. Okay, this smells absolutely different from all of the other ones. It's distinctly different. I'm getting a ton of lemon. This actually brings me back to my childhood. It smells remarkably similar to a very specific lemon fragrance that my grandfather used to bring back from Costa Azur to my family, to my mom and my sister mainly. And me and my sister used to play around with this fragrance. We were not mature enough to really understand fragrance or to use it as is. We would just play around. She would spray it on her dolls. I would spray it probably with a lighter to get a nice flame going. But it smells just like that. It's a lemony, fresh, musky, very clean type of lemony fragrance. I'm gonna be very biased about this because this again brings me back to my childhood, so I'm gonna like this a lot. I'm gonna be probably giving this a higher score than it deserves. It's fun, it's energetic, it's really refreshing. This is definitely something that I would put on in the morning to get my day started, to give me that lift, that jolt of energy, kind of like a caffeine shot or something like that. Really nice. I like this a lot. I really like this. I'm gonna be probably looking at getting a bottle of this just because it smells so familiar to me. Again, it's good. It's not great. Third person mode. I would say this is a 7.5 out of 10 at most. It's nice. It's nice though, but I really like this smell. There's something about this clean lemony smell that is so refreshing. This is not a lemony smell that's meant to be photorealistically lemon. It doesn't smell like the fruit. It smells like something scented as a lemon. If you understand what I'm talking about. It kind of smells like a popsicle, like a lemon popsicle. I really like this. To me, this is an 8. It's probably one of the better ones in the bunch, but again, third person mode, 7.5 out of 10. Super refreshing. I would love to wear this in the morning as a day starter. This is probably the most summery of them all. It's really nice. Great stuff. Okay, I'm biased, I admit it, but it's gonna be really hard to top that one for me because of the very strong scent memories. This one here is scent number 11 and it's called The Cora. For some reason, I'm not remembering reading these off the back of the box, but hey, it is what it is. Another fresh one, okay. This one also has citruses, but it's not as clear. It's not as lemony as the other one here. This is a lot more of a citrus bouquet. Maybe there's even some citrus flowers in here, like orange blossom, maybe lemon blossom or something like that, that gives it a little bit of clean powderiness. Very fresh, very summery, just like the other one. This one here, I have to applaud Thameen because they're not overusing that ambery vanillic base that the shampoo ones have. This one here is fresh, it's clean. It kind of smells like a very clean hotel room. Or rather, this is what I would like my hotel room to smell like. This is super nice. I do think that this leans a little bit more feminine. Maybe it's those white flowers in the top, those citrusy flowers. But I mean, anyone can wear anything and that's an absolute truth. But this one here kind of smells like a woman's hair. For some reason, I'm getting this imagery. Like clean woman's hair, maybe clean clothes. It has this slightly detergent-like smell in the best possible way. It doesn't smell cheap at all. It smells high quality, but very simple, very straight to the point. I like this a lot. It might come across as a little bit boring. Again, putting myself in that mindset of walking into a shop and smelling stuff. This might be the most room smelling one of the bunch. This actually kind of reminds me of Mind Games, but a little bit more complex, a little bit more elegant in a way. I like it, definitely not for me. I would say this is a strong 7 out of 10. I'm definitely super fatigued. My nose is actually clogging up. Maybe it's getting irritated, But this one here is the last one of the bunch. We're spraying the Hope. Again, I definitely have to check out the back of the box because I don't remember reading the Hope, but let's give it a go. Last one. Am I noise blind or something? This one is the weakest of the bunch by far. So I'm either nose blind by all the stuff that I smelled and that I've been sticking out my nostrils, or I'm not really getting much from this. Actually, I'm starting to pick it up. It smells like... This actually smells a lot like the two pure ambergris, real ambergris perfumes that I have. It smells similar to something like Ambre Supreme by Les Indemodables. And before anyone burns me at the stake for that statement, I'm not saying that this smells anywhere near high quality as Ambre Supreme or anywhere near as beautiful, but it sort of has the same vibe and concept. Yeah, it's definitely coming through. It's very, very delicate, very subtle, very subdued. It almost feels like a whisper, very timid. I like timid scents. I like timid scents sometime if done correctly. This again smells like a whisper in the ear. Well, I mean, a whisper in the ear doesn't really smell like anything, but it kind of like gives you the idea of like a phantom passing by. Very, very beautiful. And the phantom is actually quite good at a descriptor because it smells fresh, it smells cold in a way. There's a little bit of a saltiness going on. It might actually be an ambergris based fragrance or an ambergris accord based fragrance for all I know, but again, it has that distinct freshness and cleanliness mixed with a little bit of a musky saltiness. Another one of my favorite ambergris fragrances in my collection is Ambre Bleu by YS Yuzak. I really like that one, Swiss brand by the way. And that one also has a kind of a cleanliness to it that really compensates well with the musky ambergris accord. And this one here, again, it has that same sort of vibe. It's very, very timid, very understated. Personally, I would probably give this a very high score given how much I like the scent profile, the idea, and I really like how delicate and timid this is. I really like that factor. But again, putting myself in third person mode, this is probably the one that would go under your radar the most. And I would say that the opening of this is probably something like a 6.5 out of 10. Again, it really depends on you. I like this a lot. This is probably one of the ones that I would wear on skin, and I'll be wearing this on skin actually in the following days just to see if it is an actual ambergris fragrance. It smells good, it smells clean, but not overly clean, not like stereotypically clean like a shampoo or like a detergent or like a dryer sheet. It smells subtly clean. It smells clean in a very effortless way. The way ambergris makes you smell kind of clean. And again, I'm not even sure that ambergris is in here or anything that is remotely similar to ambergris, but that's the idea that I'm getting. Very, very subtle. It might be a little bit of a white floral type of scent. Again, it's super, super subtle. There's nothing green in here. There's nothing offensive. It's incredibly beautiful, beautifully delicate, like a whisper in the ear. Again, I can't get away from that type of imagery. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10 general opening. For me, this is probably close to an 8. All right, we're done with the initial sampling. To be honest, I wasn't really thinking that I would make it through the whole set without any sort of break, but I did it, and I don't know, this was easier than I thought. Maybe because these scents are really mass appealing. They're not offensive, they're not fatiguing, they're designed to be nice. These are definitely more perfumey perfumes. They're really nice to be worn, probably on a day-to-day basis. Almost all of them are signature scent worthy, in my opinion, at least from the opening. They are super wearable, again, mass appealing. I doubt that anyone would be offended by any one of these. And yeah, overall opinion on Thameen London based on the first impression on strip is positive, but also it's not my thing. These scents are a little bit too generic, a little bit too nondescript. I'm not really sure if they're inspired by something or not. A lot of them had a very distinct Zerjoff-like, clean, musky base, very, very punchy, very in your face. A lot of them smelled distinctly like shampoo for one way or another. Some were more fruity, some were more floral, but overall they had a very distinct type of impression. The second row here is definitely my favorite. Probably my favorite overall is Peacock Throne here, which was that kind of woody, very subtly masculine type of scent. I actually really enjoyed that. Second favorite either goes to something like Carved Oud, but that's a little bit more expected because the DNA of Tom Ford's Oud Wood is just so likable and popular. But to be completely honest, my second favorite, or maybe even my true first favorite, is the Hope, the one with the ambergris thing, the last one I smelt. There's something beautifully simple about it, beautifully elegant and subtle. I don't know, but I'm just of the idea that not every fragrance needs to be super punchy in your face. It's definitely fun to smell punchy fragrances, especially these top ones here. I was really enthralled, but after the fourth punchy fragrance that had the same sort of DNA, it was kind of getting old. The special effect kind of wore off. And I don't know, maybe I'm into more long-lasting type of impressions, and the Hope is definitely the one that struck me the most in that department. On skin, I'll probably be spraying Peacock Throne because I feel that Carved Oud would be too much of a cop-out, too much of an expected answer, and I really want to see what this is all about. So let's give it a go. Peacock Throne on my skin. If I like it, I'll be even wearing it at my scent of the night. Let me also pick up the sample. So this one here is sample number 7, so it's this one here. All right, let's see if the sample evolved. Same sort of idea, very resinous, very woody, kind of incensey in a way, delicate, way more delicate than Carved Oud. It's lacking a lot of that cleanliness from Carved Oud. A lot of those clean woods in there are not present in here. In Carved Oud, you can definitely pick up on some very creamy sandalwood type of accord, and here it's a lot more resinous, a lot more distinctly woody. Again, now I remember what this reminded me of. I said that it reminded me of Arzo, and I'm still getting that sort of concept in here. Is it completely unique? Not really. It's fairly pedestrian, fairly simple. Let's see how it goes on skin. Wow, first of all, on skin, it's way punchier, way stronger, way darker, but that is sort of to be expected. My skin really intensifies darker notes in the darker aspect of scents. This is super potent. On skin, I think I'm picking up on a lot more resins, a lot more of the base notes are emerging. There might be some myrrh, some, again, more frankincense, more. There's also some sort of a citrusy aspect to this that I wasn't picking up on strip. It's a little bit more of a candied citrus. It's not zingy or energetic. I think I like it more on strip. On strip, it was more delicate, more refined. It smelled a lot more like Arzo, which is a fragrance I absolutely love, by the way. Unfortunately, on skin, the base notes are a little bit too sweet, a little bit too pungent in your face. They completely overshadow everything else. They overshadow all those fine woody nuances. Nice, fun, punchy, but maybe it's because I'm talking about this after smelling 12 fragrances and I'm a little bit nose fatigued. But something like this, it's a little bit too intense for me. It might need a dry down on skin also to really come into its own, smoothen out and develop, but overall, I definitely like this more on strip. All right, we're at the end of the video for this one here. Just let me close it off with general observations and maybe recommendations. So the House of Thameen has always been a little bit under the radar for me and it really emerged from those shadows. These fragrances, this sampling session kind of confirmed my thoughts about the house to me. It's not really my thing. They're not really fragrances for me. I feel that they're a little bit too try hard punchy in a way. They're good. If you probably wear fragrances on more of a utilitarian type of aspect, these will be fun. Again, they are very similar to Zerjoff in wear experience, I feel, a lot of them. They're very interesting, very punchy, very dynamic fragrances. I don't know. I probably would not purchase a fragrance because they're also quite expensive and they're not really easy to be found at discounters. If I could find these for about $120 to $130, as in most Zerjoff at discounters, I might give a couple a go for sure. But given the fact that I would have to pay pretty much full retail for these, which is over $200, not so sure. I'll definitely be wearing some of these samples throughout. I really like that lemon one, and the lemon one is very particular to me. I recognize that because it brings me back to my childhood, but I'll be definitely wearing a lot more of that for sure. As for the other ones, Carved Oud is an interesting variant to Tom Ford's Oud Wood. It's a little bit more balsamic and punchy. I feel that all of these will have excellent longevity just because of how potent they are and how punchy they are. So unless these fizzle out of nowhere, I feel that these would be probably very good in the performance department, both projection and longevity. I know it seems like I'm beating around the bush a little bit. Should you actually go out and get yourself a discovery set and sample Thameen? This discovery set was actually quite pricey. I got it at a discounted price because it was the duty-free thing. I got it for, I think it was like 75, 80 bucks. So not super cheap for what you're getting. And for comparison, the discovery set of Les Indemodables runs about 45 to 50. That's an incredibly good deal, especially for the quality of fragrances you get and for the amount of fragrances you get. You also get 11 fragrances, way more interesting. I would say prioritize something like that over Thameen if you can first. And I even got another sample set from Electimus London, which I'll be sampling in 2 parts because those are 20 fragrances, but that ran me 95 bucks. So I do think that the Thameen discovery set is a little bit overpriced. I don't know. If you have a chance of getting your nose on the Thameen fragrances, possibly in a shop, by all means, go for it. You're gonna have a good time. Super fun, very exciting, very punchy. Again, punchy is the word that I associate to this house for now. But overall, none of them really was super memorable to me. I'm actually really curious to sample the ones from Christopher Chong to see if he managed to inject some of his charisma into these fragrances or if he was limited by budget or just house brief. I don't know. Overall, fun times. I love sampling stuff. It's always an interesting experience to go for a full house like this, a full brand. So my closing thoughts on this are pretty much the usual. Keep getting out of your comfort zone, keep smelling stuff, keep developing your proficiency for the beautiful language of perfumery. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to videos, feel free to subscribe. It's always massively appreciated and it helps the channel. If you want to interact with me, leave a comment, suggestion, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. Many more videos to come in all of the various formats and genres. See you in the next one and cheers.